Hello, today I'm joined by my guest, James Townsend Rose. He is the CEO of Go Seamless. How are you doing?
I'm good, David. Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Nice to have you with us today. I'm interested to hear more about Seamless and what you guys are doing. Your preferred title for this webinar was Build Your Dream Property Team, which I've been trying to do my entire 30-year career in property. And it's harder to do than it looks sometimes.
Yeah, yeah.
But I suppose your hook is that it's remote property specialists for UK agents that you're offering. I suppose as a premise, I think that property management particularly is quite a labor intensive. There's quite a lot of admin in there. There are quite a bit of repetitive tasks, but also I would say the sort of tasks that if you cut corners on them, you are going to almost certainly end up in trouble, either, on a legislation point of view or legally, or,
Mm.
even worse, somebody's actual personal safety gets threatened. And so I think a lot hinges on the quality of services that we as agents offer to our clients and obviously the members of the public that end up being our tenants. So these are things that I suppose an average UK agent has hesitated in outsourcing or handing over to somebody else. We know that there's a world of efficiency offered in sort of traditional VA terms, but you're imagining something slightly different, aren't you?
Yeah, I mean, I think the background to Seamless was actually in the traditional VA sense. We've had a traditional VA business for 10 years. But over the last perhaps 2 years, we've seen that an increasing number of our VAs have been pulled into providing services into the property sector in the UK. And we had this kind of eureka moment that said, actually, let's pull that part out of our other business, which was outsourcery, and set up this new brand, Seamless. And rather just offering, generic operators or VAs, let's actually provide, or let's start specialist recruitment for people with experience in the UK property sector. And then over on top of that, start doing our own training program in the back end to make sure that these people who we provide to our UK agents are sort of experienced and trained up to deliver that service. And the market seems to have really grabbed onto that. So it's been an exciting couple of months as we've seen this grow.
Well, I'm going to ask you in a minute about some examples of exactly how people have grasped onto that and where the
Mm.
efficiencies have been delivered, particularly in terms of time saving. I can imagine there's an awful lot to talk about. Just to go over that one last point again, though, I mean, you were talking there about you obviously training up your people to understand fully and grasp fully the gravity and the importance of all the sort of things that and the technical detail of all the stuff that they'll be carrying out. So from a quality and compliance point of view for UK agents, I take it the people that are involved in facilitating all of this, they should, in theory, be as knowledgeable as a UK based agent in carrying it out.
Yeah, they should be. So, I mean, we offer various levels of remote support. So, from the let's call it a property coordinator, which is more of sort of administrative type tasks. That's more similar to a generic kind of VA type role, often supporting a larger property team. So, this would be specific for an agent which has a large property management team, all the way up to a property manager who is then well versed in the compliance and regulatory requirements of doing the role. And they would obviously have more experience in the UK sector and be either qualified or working towards qualification in property management. So there's a variety of different levels that we can provide support at to our customers.
Fantastic, fantastic. I think that sort of flexibility and that reassurance, I suppose, is really important. So, are you able to sort of now share some examples with us of where Seamless has been able to sort of deliver efficiencies and time savings for agents?
Yeah, I think we try to focus on three different client sectors. So estate agents, property management companies, and portfolio landlords, all of whom have property management as a function within their offices.
Yeah.
On the estate agent side, these are typically companies, single branch or multi-branch companies with perhaps up to 20 employees, often have a property team of maybe 3 or 4 as part of the sort of lettings part of the business.
Yeah.
And what we noticed with them is that the in-house team are just getting swamped with admin and back office stuff, and really start to lose touch with the value add that they could bring to clients in person, going on to site visits or doing key handovers, et cetera, et cetera. And the agents themselves, the agent owners themselves, were reluctant to grow the team because of the cost of payroll costs, increasing payroll costs in the UK at the moment. So we've probably got at the moment maybe 5 or 6 clients who fit that very specific mold in 1 or 2 branch agents. We'd either put a person or up to 2 property managers in their team, and they literally they're embedded in that team. They have their
They're
emails, they're
part
part
of
of the
the
team, they're part of the culture. Yeah, they just happen to sit here in South Africa. And other than that, they're really part of the team themselves. So
so
giving all the sort of cost benefits and the flexibility, but still getting the job done.
so exactly the same, except they have the winter when we have the summer, and we have the summer when you guys got your winter. I get it.
That's it. That's
But
it.
the time difference is beautiful actually, because I think it allows us all to to communicate in real time basically.
Yeah.
You mentioned the word culture there, and I
Mm.
think 2 things. You kind of touched on it, that I think sometimes property management teams, they get so beleaguered, is the word I'm going to use, and
Yeah.
bogged down with various different things, that it can just bring the kind of overall tone and atmosphere down. So sometimes
Yeah.
alleviating and another pair of hands just to sort of elevate it a little bit. So I think culture wise, I think it's a win anyway if you can help to unlock all that kind of the blockages and the areas where people get tied up in stuff that isn't particularly rewarding for them, either financially or even just career wise. It's not what you
Yes.
kind of signed up for. But
Yes.
so I think that's important. But how do you guys, every company has its own culture. So what's your kind of process for getting underneath the skin of those agents and trying to sort of understand what the culture is there?
But it's we I guess what we promote is we promote the agent to bring their remote property manager from Seamless into their team. So it's more like they are, they're very much part of their team. Yes, we manage all the payroll and the HR complexity on the back end,
Yeah.
but other than that, they sit in their teams, and they should be onboarding the remote property manager in the same way that they would onboard a new starter in their company. And obviously, a big part of that is culture. We do support that onboarding process. So some agents with the best will in the world and perhaps not the best at running a really quality onboarding program. And we've obviously seen a lot of these over the years. So we can help our clients onboard their remote property manager well, and set them up for success, especially when they're now dealing with hybrid teams, because you've got an in-office team, and also now a remote property manager. So we support them with that transition. Um, but ultimately, where we see real success is where the remote property manager is absolutely part of the team. And we've had one example springs to mind. They've been working. We've got a full-time remote property manager working with a sort of portfolio landlord in North London who's been with the company for 10 years. I mean, she's just part of the team.
Yeah.
They love her. She loves them. She still sits in our business on our books. But for all intents and purposes, for the clients and the team in North London, she's one of them.
That is and that's superb, and that's a great, I suppose, a great success story. Almost sort of 10 years later,
Mm,
it's still good news, isn't it? So in terms of an agent coming along to you and wanting to sort of sign up and so on as a new client. What's the process involved? So what's the journey from that kind of first call that you end up having to the RPM actually,
mm, mm.
having to be onboarded? Is it painful? Is it painless? How does it work?
Well, seamlessly, we hope.
See, I,
There,
I just set them up, you complete them.
I hit
This
them
is how
out.
this works, James.
Yeah, yeah, thanks. Look, they're 3 pretty simple steps, and it's not dissimilar to a recruiting process. So the first step is we have essentially a discovery call where we learn about what you're trying to achieve. And that might be the role outline. Maybe you've got a job description already. Maybe you've already been looking for someone in the market and have been struggling to fill a role. Maybe it's just specific tasks that you want to outsource. So you're pulling some of the admin from an existing team and wanting to send that offshore. So we kind of structure what this looks like, what type of person, what type of skills and experience, how many hours per month. It creates essentially a job description. Once we've got that, we then go back into our team. We've got about 180 people in our books at the moment in South Africa, full-time employees of mine. And we match that role with the right person. Essentially, it becomes a bit of a dating service in stage two. They also have to be excited about working for the company. We find longevity is driven by both a good fit, but also like deep desire to want to be involved in that area. And then we go back to you as the client and say that we found these 2 or 3 people. We share detailed profiles and videos. So there's a bit of a screening opportunity there, and also offer up our team up for a short interview, half an hour meet and greet opportunity for Q&A. And then once that's done, so we've got a skills fit, a personality fit, we've done Q&A, we then get going after a small onboarding call, and we're into phase 3. Which is where you're now working with your remote property manager. We help you onboard them through a client success manager, which supports you in addition to the remote property manager, and you're off to the races with your new team member.
So, I mean, that's great, and it is straightforward, and it feels seamless. But in terms of flexibility, we know that sometimes, things change. There's a difference, isn't there, between interviewing somebody and then sort of seeing how they fit in the team, how it integrates, and also sometimes that workload focus can change. You can have a change in, for property managers, you can have a big client leave or join, so the workload either goes up or down, and there needs to be that ability to be as flexible as possible with actual kind of UK-based full-time members of staff. Flexibility is not amazing sometimes,
Yeah,
actually, and it's not
yeah.
the word we normally use. With this sort of outsourced support, I take it flexibility is a feature that perhaps you can offer.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really beautiful benefit of the model to agents, because essentially what you're doing is subscribing to talent. It's a month-to-month contract, and that allows you to upgrade and downgrade with 1 month's notice. So, say for example, you're a seasonal business, or business takes a turn for the good, and you need to increase the number of hours and number
Yeah.
of support that you need. You have that month-to-month flexibility. We also see that roles change, as you mentioned. So, we did need this type of person, but actually the role is and the requirements have changed. We now need someone with slightly different experiences. We essentially can do a talent swap in and out of the business, which obviously is much harder than with a full-time role, because you've got
Yeah.
to go through all sorts of HR processes and requirements. So I think the easiest way to think about it, in terms of subscribing to talent rather than hiring it.
It's a lovely way of putting it, actually. And it does feel like that fully sort of is able to adapt to the growth of the business and other things. So talking about sort of mapping that journey of growth in a business and looking at what success looks like for particularly in these sort of roles, what is it that you seek to measure? So I mean, I guess, normally from an HR point of view, we end up sitting down with an employee and having a one-to-one at some point. We go through all the things they're doing right. We go through all the areas that we feel they could use a little bit more support on. We're obviously coming to you then as an outsourced provider. What do you do behind the scenes to map success, and what does that look like?
Ultimately, it's longevity. So where we as a business have a client, we measure success by how long they remain a client, is the ultimate measure of happiness.
Yeah.
You can break that down into lots of other components that make that up. But yeah, ultimately it's longevity, and we see with our seamless clients that longevity is very high. I mean, they're incredibly happy with the service that we offer. And yeah, we actually haven't had a client leave yet. So
Well, that's good. It's good that you've got that proven track record, and there's people out there that we can talk to. Um, And forgive me for asking this question. I sort of, it was almost the premise that I opened with, but
Mm,
we're very much sort of familiar with a standardized VA model here in
mm,
the UK.
mm.
Um, the way in which Seamless differentiates itself from other VA models is that this isn't just generic kind of support services. This is very focused, very targeted, property specific. But more importantly, you align that sort of training that you're giving people, you know, training pathways are sort of mapped to those UK qualifications. So, we can talk about Property Mark and TPI and other people like that. So really you're taking it one step further. Um, and I suppose that's all you guys specialize in is just property, right?
That's right. Yeah. So we become essentially an expert at finding the right people and training them up to meet specific role requirements in the UK, from the lettings and property coordinator, the entry level role, all the way up to property manager or block property manager in the HMOs. And we, as we said, we create those kind of training paths into those specific roles, so we can really put our name behind the quality of the talent that we're offering, as opposed to I guess, a VA business, a more generic VA business, which brings operators, some of them incredibly capable, but not necessarily with the qualifications and experience in property, which puts a lot of onus on the client to do all the training, to put in place the checks and balances around compliance. And we've sorted all that out on our side.
So on these webinars, we get through all the nice shiny stuff. We get through
Mm.
the how amazing your company is and how your solutions and products sort of help support the agents in their roles. We unfortunately have to get down to business at some point and ask a really dirty question about money.
Yeah.
So typically, I know things vary, and I know
Yeah.
that different qualified roles are slightly different. So there is a degree of flexibility. But
Mm.
in maybe in perhaps comparative terms, maybe you're able to express it as a percentage, perhaps.
Yeah.
On average, what sort of saving am I as a UK agency owner going to experience coming via you guys rather than trying to go out and solve this myself?
Yeah. We find against all the roles, it roughly ends up around 40% saving against the cost to company amount. So we benchmark perhaps a property manager role who's earning between 35 and 40,000 pounds a year in salary. You can put that up to 40 to 45 cost to company once you've taken into account national insurance, the desk
Yeah.
space, the computer, the training, everything else. And then for that exact same role, same qualifications, just remote, we come in at about 25,000. And that still leads to a very well compensated, happy person in South Africa, just taking into account the differences in the currency and the
Yeah.
parity of currency. So it's a kind of a win-win-win situation. We've got happy people in South Africa, we operating with as a business, and we're still able to save agents up to 40% against the local hire in the UK.
That's substantial, and when you think about the added sort of flexibility that's there as well in terms of
Mm,
various other HR hurdles that we normally have to jump over, I think this is it's a solution that
mm,
I think you really need to sort of give serious thought to next time you are looking at hiring somebody in your management department, property management department. I think that, you really should consider this sort of
yeah,
option because
yeah.
you might see, and I take it, it follows the same process. It's not, somebody doesn't just show up for work on a Monday that you've never met before. You go through that whole process of getting to know them, interviewing, second interviews and questions and so on. This is a fully kind of eyes open process. You feel like you know what you're getting into, right?
100%. Yeah. I mean, we encourage our clients to go through a recruitment process, obviously guided by us. But yeah, we want them to be sure that they're getting the right person with the right skills and experiences. In the same way that when we recruit our team, we are going through a very um, lengthy recruitment process. So we're very careful about the people that we bring into our organization. So we're essentially putting our mark of quality on them and putting them out into the market. But we also ask the same of our clients to make sure that they're happy with the people that they're getting.
Superb. James, thank you so much for talking to us today and looking forward to hearing more. We'll have you back with perhaps some stories as well from agents that we've spoken to that are giving you glowing reviews. So thank you very much.
Great. Appreciate it, David. Lovely to meet you. Speak to you soon.